Cheeky cheeky caca da boom baby badapa. It's a Blackbird, baby, and you know it's gonna get you. Wizardy, what's up, my friends? My name is Stonesy Boy, and I'm in such a good mood. I'm doing 2 reading videos today. Heck, maybe even 3. Today we are reading pages 21 to 40 of Fnaf Fazbear number 6, Fazbear Fright's Blackbird. This is episode 2 of 12. So if I did this 6 times, we would be done. But I can read 3, and then we can do it only 4 times, or whatever. But without further ado, let's begin. No raised an eyebrow, but didn't stop laughing. Seriously, picture it. It's like 2 little monkeys. He pretended to be a monkey picking lice off of another monkey. Sam frowned, stood up, and started pacing around the fake room. Noel leaned back on the bed again. He pulled out a pillow from under the bedspread and plumped it up. I just made the bed, and Sam snapped. Chill, I'll fix it when I get up. Sam kept pacing. He abruptly stopped. Unless you're blind, you have no notice I'm not a normal-looking guy, right? Noel tilted his head. You're tall, but so are a lot of my frat brothers. They're all tall and athletic, Sam said. I'm just tall. Okay. So when I was in junior high, I was already too tall for my age, and my looks looked even longer than they do now, because I was so skinny. So guess what happened to me? Noel figured Sam was bullied, but he decided to wait and let Sam tell a story. Noel knew he was being an idiot, but he wasn't stupid. I was bullied basically from the time I entered 1st grade until I got in the freshman year in high school. Then that year it stopped. But I can tell you those jokes you think are so funny, they're not funny to people receiving the end of them. Sam crossed his arms and glared at Noel. Noel laughed. Dude, you look like a totem pole right now. Or, no, you look like one of those wooden Indian statues. Noel sat up, crossed his arms, and intoned. How? Noel fell back in his bed and laughed. And Sam shook his head and turned around. And that's offensive. Just get this done, huh? Noel got off the bed, still grinning. You made the bed. Maybe not as steadily as Sam had done it, but it made. And who said Floyd was composed about his bed anyways? Are you okay, dude? Noel said, and Sam was keeping his back to Noel. I'm good. Sam turned around and surveyed the room, not looking at Noel. I think we're done here. How about if we call it good for now, and I'll bring my costume from home tomorrow and we can start filming. You don't want to run through the lines now? You're the one who has lines. I thought you said you already knew them. I do. Well, then I'd say we're done. Sam stepped over the bed and fixed Noel's messy bed-making job. Okay, Kimosabe, Noel chuckled. Sam flicked Noel a look, said, see you tomorrow, and strode out of the shooting studio. I might have gotten on one of those dude's big old nerves, Noel said to himself. Then he chuckled again and cracked himself up. Returning from his date evening with Amber, Noel sauntered down the hall into his signal room of the frat house, bobbing his head in time to the music that vibrated the walls. And the speakers were on the 1st floor, and his on the 3rd. But his frat brothers were partying hard tonight. The whole house shook. It also smelled like beer, knockwurst, and unwashed laundry. He wrinkled his nose. Noel didn't mind the noise, but he didn't love the smell. Noel didn't admit it to anyone, but he wasn't nearly fraternity material. He pledged the frat because his dad and granddad had been members, and he had been assumed that he'd been one too. But it was a cool frat, and Noel was all about doing what it was to be cool, and he was content. Especially since he won the room lottery at the beginning of the year, which had got him the best single room in a 3-story Tudor mansion in the house of the frat. The door Noel was stolen past flew open, and the muscular, rumpled guy with spiky hair scratched the bare belly and squinted up the bright hall lights. What time is it? He asked. Almost midnight, Noel said. You okay, Ian? Ian was a football player, a dedicated one. He was always talking about treating his body as a temple and stuff like that. He liked to walk around in his boxer shorts, showing everyone just how awesome temple it was. Noel thought Ian was a little full of himself, but he did find the guy's boxer shorts amusing. He had dozens of them, all in different colors and patterns. Tonight's boxers were white, but they were covered in bright yellow rubber ducks. Maybe it was rubber ducks that made Noel notice Ian's gray, clay-like complexion and his dark smudges under his eyes. He didn't expect someone wearing rubber ducks to look internally ill. Now sleeping lady, now this? Ian waved his hand through the throbbing beat as he massaged the walls of the building. The music keeps you awake? Yeah, it doesn't keep you awake? Nah, nothing keeps me awake. Seriously? Seriously, I can't sleep through pretty much anything. I'm envious. I have trouble sleeping every night. It must have guilty conscience, Noel said. Ian's eyes widened. What? Chill, just kidding. Noel laughed and punched Ian on the cement he called an upper arm. Ian gave Noel a weak smile and stumbled across the hall into the bathroom. Noel rubbed his knuckles and headed down the hall to his room. Noel arrived back to the shooting studio the noon and next day. Even though it was Sunday, he generally spent his Sundays watching sports on TV and playing intramural ball with his frat brothers. He figured that he would get to the studio on time and mend things with Sam. Even though Sam hadn't said much, he was clearly pretty upset the day before. Noel might have pushed a little too far. He knew sometimes he did that. When Noel discovered Sam wasn't in the studio yet, he stretched out of bed to wait. 45 minutes later, he was still lying there. He closed his eyes and must have fallen asleep because an amber charged in the room. He was so startled he almost fell out of the bed. Did you hear? Huh? He sat up. Hear what? He rubbed his face. What time is it? It's 2:30. The news about Sam. What news about Sam? Amber hugged herself. They think he might have been hit by a train. He brushed at puffy eyes. What? Apparently he made the costume for your movie, one with the black feathers, and they found feathers all over the tracks, like 2 miles, all over the place. Noel shot off the bed. Is he okay? Amber shook her head. That's the thing. They don't know. He's missing. I've got to go. Noel charged past Amber and tore out the film studio's building. The railroad tracks ran along the back side of the campus, behind the cafeteria, rec center, and swimming pool complex. They were about half a mile from the field studies building, jogging past kids throwing frisbee in the quad and others studying the shade of the campus' big cedar trees. Noel ignored several greetings and concentrated on getting to the tracks. Hit by a train? Missing? Noel couldn't believe it. Then Noel reached the tracks, his stomach clenched at the sight of a half a dozen cop cars pulled alongside the tracks and a couple of numbered cops walking the area. Their gazes are on the ground, pushing into a relatively docile crowd hanging around the crime scene tape, guarded by the large, balding cop. Noel approached the cop and said, I'm Sam's friend. Have you found him yet? Who are you? The cop asked. Sam's friend, Noel repeated. Noel Markman. Noel saw no reason to keep his name a secret. He hadn't done anything wrong, had he? You know something about what happened here? The cop asked. I only know that my friend told me, but that's because of the feathers. You think Sam was hit by a train and you can't find him? The cop died him. Could the guy have been more cliche? A big gut, shiny and surrounded by a black fringe of hair, dark eyes squinted to try to intimidate Noel, with thick hands resting on his gun belt. A cop he had walked off a TV set, except this cop smelled like hair gel and cheap cologne. At least cops on TV were unscented. Noel eyed the cop right back. If you don't have something to tell us, now said, toying with his nightstick, get back there and get everyone else. Noel didn't move. He leaned right against the seat past cop. Even from there, he could see black feathers fluttering over the tracks. A cop shifted the stance, and that's when Noel noticed a tall couple standing between one of the police cars and a bright red Chevy Suburban. They were talking to a guy in a baggy suit. Noel bit the inside of his cheek so he wasn't groaning out loud. It was Sam's parents, Paul and Molly O'Neill. He met them when they threw a party to celebrate the previous semester's completed film projects. Really nice couple. Both are tall and dark like Sam. Although Sam's mom wasn't as tall, she wasn't as tall as Noel, though. Hefty, too. If there was something called Mom League in the NFL, she would have played. Call me Molly, she said when Noel met her. First, O'Neill is my mother-in-law. Noel remembered Molly with a great smile and an even better laugh. Right now, she wasn't laughing. She was crying, her head pressed against her husband's shoulder. Noel clenched his fist in frustration. How could he help? Molly looked up and he spotted Noel. Noel, is that you? The cops was standing with Sam's parents motioned for the TV cop to let Noel pass. Noel didn't stop himself from giving the cop a smirk as he went past, but his smirk died a quick death when he saw Molly pinch the white face. He rushed to Noel and he threw her arms around him. You heard. Oh, Noel, he's missing. But they say he probably couldn't have survived. Her voice broke, and he turned back to Paul. Paul held Molly with one arm and offered his other hand to Noel to shake. Holding Molly so close, Paul said, it's because of the way the feathers in the costume were scattered. They think he'd probably grazed by the train and had been thrown clear, but they haven't found him. Noel frowned and watched the black feather scuttle over the ground near the rails. But that's when he noticed blood on the rail, on the opposite side of the tracks. Not a lot of blood, just one smear. That was a big smear. A lot of police officers taking a picture of it. Blood, Noel thought. There had to be blood, he kept telling Sam. Noel lingered by the tracks with Sam's distraught parents for the rest of the afternoon. By then, the police had declared Sam missing, presumed dead. Multiple search parties had been sent out. Noel had been part of one, but he found nothing. No one found anything. When Noel left the tracks, he returned to his room. He let Molly and Paul hug him, even though he didn't want to be hugged. Being near them was like standing next to a loudspeaker for emotions. Their grief was amplified by their facial expressions and memories about Sam. The clamorous sense of loss was more than Noel could handle. He could stand by being around Molly and the cops anymore. He had to get away. Once Noel started walking away from the scene of the tracks, he couldn't stop. He couldn't process what had happened. How could Sam be dead? Was it my fault? Why do you think that? He didn't do anything. But it isn't true, is it? He kind of did do something. He was a bit of a jackass the day before. And Sam had been upset. He tried to hide it, but Noel could tell Sam was pissed when he left the studio. So it had been upset and made him careless. But it happened this morning, not last night. He told himself. Sam would have been upset this morning, right? Noel wasn't convincing himself. Why did he have to be such a jerk sometimes? Yo, Noel, get along. Noel looked up to see your instrumental buddies holding a football and pointing. Noel dutifully trotted in the direction indicated and caught a somewhat wobbly spiral after juggling it a couple times. He was about to throw it back, intending to return the upstaging perfect spiral, but in his gaze, he had brought his arm forward, landed in a large black shape just at the edge of the trees. Noel let go of the ball and flopped all over the place before landing 50 feet from his target. Wuss, Noel's friend called. Noel ignored him. What was he just seen? Noel continued to ignore his friend, who was now shouting and dithering comments about Noel's throwing ability. Noel hadn't been seeing what he thought he'd seen, had he? When Noel reached the trees, he looked up into the sagging branches and down to the tangled underbrush. He saw nothing out of the ordinary. It must have been in his imagination. All that talk of black feathers and Sam's costume was messing with his head. A little after 6, Noel's stomach came unclenched enough to remind him that he hadn't eaten before he had gone to the shooting studio. He needed food. So, he headed to the cafeteria. Not much of what served there could be called food, but he was hungry enough to eat pretty much anything at this point. The cafeteria was only half full, as the usual on Sundays. A lot of students went on their way the weekends, and even more ate out. Usually only nerds were around about now. Hey, Noel hadn't turned to identify the speaker. It was Amber. He wasn't sure what to say to her. Their last exchange felt like years ago. He must have come looking for an update about Sam. Noel turned. Hey, I never see you here on Sundays. Noel let out a sigh of relief at the sight of sarcasm, and she managed to slide in pretty much everything that came out of her mouth. Even when sarcasm was required, she wasn't sure he could talk about Sam right now. That's because I've never been here on Sundays. So, you're not here now? Obviously. Amber rolled her eyes. So is your clone going to get in line, or is it going to stand getting in the way? Noel going to help himself. He grinned. He'll get in line, just so he doesn't put you out. Nice of him. He's actually a pretty nice guy. Noel stepped back and motioned for Amber to go ahead of him. You should give you lessons. Amber winked as she passed him. Noel followed Amber through the line, putting some of his and some of that. He had no idea what he was putting on his tray. He was already distracted by what had happened to Sam. Plus, he was trying to puzzle out what he'd seen by the trees. And now Amber was befuddling him. He only recently figured out she might like her. If they had gone on their first date the night before, it had been good. But today it had been kind of wiped with the day of his mind. Should I have called her by now? It would have been nice, Amber said. What? It just said, should I called her by now? I did. You did. He gave him a sideways glance. That had to be evidence of the whacked out mental state. Noel decided maybe he could stop thinking completely. Finding himself at a big round table covered in crumbs and smeared with something red, Noel sat down. He stared at the red smear. Surely not blood, but it had been ketchup. Why did he have blood on the brain? Noel glanced at Amber, who wasn't sure had said anything out loud. Apparently not. She was putting blue cheese dressing on a big salad. The cafeteria had a third full. Conversations were muted, and silverware dish face-offs were intermediate. Outside the wall-to-wall windows with the quad was emptying. The sun was dripping behind the tops of the trees where Noel thought he'd seen. Nothing. I saw nothing, he told himself. Noel looked at the tray. He blinked. Somehow he managed to get sauerkraut, beets, mashed potatoes, 3 dinner rolls without butter, 2 dill pickles, and 3 kinds of pie. Are you pregnant? Amber was eyeing his tray too. Apparently, Noel picked up a spoon. Realizing he'd gotten a fork, he dug into the mashed potatoes of his all right in the world. He noticed that the cafeteria smelled like beef stew. It was an entree. Was that an entree you missed? Amber chewed when he put down a fork. I'm sorry about earlier. For once, and her words were free of sarcasm. Earlier? When I told you about Sam. I shouldn't have dropped it on you the way I did. Noel grabbed the glass and took a drink of what it was and to wash down the gluey mashed potatoes. He discovered he had gotten sweet iced tea. He hated sweet iced tea. It's okay. Amber put her hand on Noel's arm. No, it's not. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you two were so close. Noel shot a look at her. Was she being sarcastic again? No, judging from her little crimp between her brows, she was concerned. We're not that, Noel began, and he realized that, yeah, he was pretty close to Sam. It started out as a complete mismatch, assigned to work on each other. Noel was rushing his fraternity. Sam lived on his parents. Noel was cool. Sam seemed to go out of his way not to be cool. So screening the most military haircut, his crisply ironed shirts, thanks to Molly, and that legal briefcase he always carried instead of a backpack. You're not? Amber asked. Noel shook his head. Yeah, I guess we've gotten sort of close. He's kind of a strange dude, but he's smart, and he's funny. He's a nice guy. Like you? Amber said. Noel frowned at her. He stood up so abruptly his knee hit the table. All the dishes were out on the trays. His tea sloshed. I've got to go. Amber looked at him. It's like deja vu, huh? She waved him away. Call me when you find your brain. Okay. Noel strode from the table and dumped his tray in the return area. The uneaten food turned him to yearn glance from one of the round women, the baronets, who had worked in the cafeteria. He didn't care. He just had to. What was that? Noel stopped just outside the doors of the cafeteria and stared down the hall. He looked the other way too, and then he turned to look behind him. He rubbed his eyes and checked the area again. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Dirty beige floor, pale yellow walls, posters waving for a space in the overcrowded bulletin board that ran along the wall. A few students strolling in and out of the cafeteria. Nothing to see here, folks. Yeah, so why was Noel sure he'd spotted something big and black flutter around the corner at the end of the hall? And that's what it was, that noise. Noel tilted his head and listened. It sounded rhythmic rustling, a sort of whispery sound like wet feathers being dragged along the floor. Noel trotted out of the cafeteria building, stopped, bent over, and took a couple big breaths of fresh air outside. You okay? No. Noel looked up. One of his frat brothers, Steve, stood by the bottom of the stairs, his arm draped around a pretty red-headed girl. Yeah, I'm fine. No, you say so, Steve said. Noel lifted his hand, and Steve and his girls wandered off. Noel headed for the frat house. Noel sat on his bed, his legs spread out and his hands loosened in his lap. He rolled his head around, listening to his neck crack. He took several deep breaths. When you're tense, adopt a relaxed posture, loosen your muscles, and breathe deeply, his mother taught him when he was little. He was really worked up with something. Tell your body how you feel, and he'll come along for the ride. Usually that works pretty well, but not this time for a good reason. The situation is a little beyond old school relaxation techniques. Leaving the cafeteria and getting into his room, Noel had seen something. Not something, but something following him 4 times. 4 times. Something, but what? 4 times Sam had heard a weird sound, a cross between the sound of the wind and the fluttering noise combined with a regularly spaced airy thumps. No matter how many times he'd try to tell himself that he was hearing some kind of mechanical contraption or some sort of air conditioning or fan unit attached to one of the buildings on campus, he couldn't convince himself of the lie. The truth was that he was hearing the sound of feathers, lots of them, brushing over the ground and grazing the edge of the trees in the building. It might have been easier to believe the lies about the sound if he had been seen a mammoth lurching well of the feathers rippling just past the edge of the peripheral vision. 4 times he'd seen the sinister forms billowing in and out of between the trees and the buildings. Well, seen was a bit of overstatement. He actually wasn't sure what his eyes had told him. The word seen implied the direct vision of something. Noel hadn't had that. He had the idea of seeing something, but the more he kicked around the idea, the more he became convinced that he had seen something. Something had toyed with his senses, something just beyond his reach, and confident visual security. That something was been massive, black, and feathery, and there it was again. A larger shape darkened Noel's small west-facing window, blotting out the stinking sun for just an instant. Noel only caught it for a corner of his eye again, but it was there. Noel bent over and put his hand on his head. Oh man, oh man, oh man. He straightened up. Get a grip, he ordered himself. Taking a deep breath, he looked around his room. Noel might have looked just sloppy enough to be cool, but he looked like he liked order in his surroundings. It was minimalist. His room was smoothingly white. The maple furniture had clean lines, though it was lightly stained. The small fridge he used for bottled water and the occasional leftover pizza, if it left it in the main kitchen it was sure to be stolen, was white, with sleek lines. The bed was made, a bit messily, and covered with a plain tan comforter. The rug under the bed was a soul, and the floor and all furniture surfaces were color-free, and the only thing on the walls were a few black and white still shots of the old movies. Noel's frat brothers kept trying to get him to hang the frat's Greek letters in the room. Noel said he didn't need them to know the frat he was in. The refusal was just one of the many earned him the nickname No. The black shade passed the window again. Noel ran the window and pulled the white room darkening shade. A window flitted behind the shade, and Noel turned his back to the window. This is just stupid. He crossed the bed and sat again. Was it? Noel liked to think he was a pretty reasonable guy, but he knew what was going on here, and he wasn't reasonable at all. It was very unreasonable. It was unreasonable, but it was sure to be true. Noel was seeing Sam in the Blackbird costume, and Sam was stalking Noel. Why was Sam stalking Noel? It was obvious, wasn't it? Sam was stalking Noel because he was now the Blackbird, and the Blackbird tortured those who confessed their dirty secrets. So first Sam was going to toy with Noel in the same way the bully toyed with his victim, and then Sam was going to kill Noel being a horrible person. Noel was sure of it, and the worst part was that Noel deserved it. Sunday nights at the frat house were movie nights, and normally Noel wouldn't miss that. Not just because he helped organize the events, but because he enjoyed them. But tonight's movie was a horror flick with blood, and Noel wasn't up for it. He begged off and earning himself a shower and a popcorn and a course of booze and hisses. After a half hour trying to study and another half hour of staring at the ceiling, Noel wished he had joined the movie night, but he didn't want to be down now. He was too edgy. Noel's phone rang. He snatched it up, hoping it was news about Sam. Sam's alright, he is. He thought before he said hello. He is. It was Amber. Who is? You said he is, Amber said. He did it again. You really need to stop saying about it loud. Wasn't I supposed to call you? Noel asked. You didn't. I know, jerk. Noel's heart tried to strangle him. He swallowed and pushed it back into place. Maybe I had a reason, he said. I'm listening. My friend had turned into a big blackbird and he's going to come and kill me, Noel thought. Then he grit his teeth. Waiting for Amber to tell him, he said out loud, Are you going to the obscene phone call technique? He said, What? You're breathing heavily in my ear. It's not turning me on. Oh, are you sure? Maybe there's a delayed reaction. Amber laughed. I'll let you know. Noel grunted in spite of how shaken he was. Talking to Amber put him a little more at ease. I called because you seemed kind of freaked out of the calf. And Amber said, I was just what? It was about Sam? Noel gripped the phone and heard his fingers hurt. Yeah. Amber's voice softened. I'm sorry. Thanks. For a few seconds they were both silent. Maybe you'll find it in your sleep, Amber said. Find what? Your brain. Noel grinned again. I'll give it a go and let you know what happens. Be sure you do. When Noel hung up the phone, he tried to convince himself that your thoughts of Sam were some kind of craziness caused by shock. Maybe Amber was right. Maybe he could go to sleep and find his brain. The same person in his brain, the one who was stalked by a friend in a bird suit. It was worth a try. Noel stood and stripped out of his clothes. Like a body-proud Ian, Noel slept in his underwear, but he wore boxer briefs, white, no rubber ducks. Sliding in under unwrinkled shirt sheets, That's really needed a trip to the laundry. Noel took one last look around his room and be sure all should be. It was. He closed his eyes. At first, sleep wouldn't come. Noel's muscles wouldn't let go, and they were so taut that they could have been strung on a guitar and plucked. If they had been plucked, Noel was sure they'd be discontent. There was no question he was out of tune. Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. And that's the end of that. So that's 2 episodes in a row, my frizzity friends, and another exactly 20-minute episode. I mean, it's a little longer than 20 minutes. Right now it's 20 minutes. For you guys it's probably 20 minutes and something else, but right now for me it's 20 minutes and 57 seconds. That's what I like about the FNAF books is they're 20 minutes or they're not 20 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, next time, or first of all, we go to here, we go here, we go boom, and next time we're reading, I was about to say, why is these weird? Next time we are reading pages 41 to 60. Hold on. I need to really organize this better. Page numbers, whiteboard, then book. This can stay all the way on the bottom. That's fine. But yeah, definitely page number is a huge one because there's only one page number. 41 to 60. So I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. If you like Big Fish, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.